Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to Tea Talk. Welcome back to this podcast if you're listening on audio. Hello. I still feel very fancy for having a lapel mic, and hopefully it's working this time. I literally filmed an entire Tea Talk yesterday and the whole thing had to be scratched because my camera died, the audio was off, blah, blah, blah. So I'm here. Hi. And if you didn't know that, I upload all of the audios for my Tea Talks to podcast as well. I eventually want to do some exclusive podcasts too. I've mentioned that a few times. I'm working on it. Everything takes me 12 years to get around to, but eventually that is my hope. So, hi. Today, just like the title says, I am going to be talking about my least favorite parts of being a mom. Now I have a lot of topics that I want to talk about. I was about to go off into the topic I was talking about yesterday. I was talking about homeschooling, but I decided rather than refilming that, because I was literally so frustrated that I filmed the whole thing and then had to scrap it, I need to just take a pause from that. So I will be talking about homeschooling soon in life too, although I'm thinking I want to get questions from you guys and combine it with questions as well as my homeschooling story. So that's just kind of a heads up for something that's coming. But I was thinking about it and I realized a lot of you guys have asked me specifically to talk about the hard parts of motherhood. And I'm really, my personality in general, I've mentioned this, just is more comfortable with the sunny sides of life. I also am the kind of person that, ooh, wait, I want to sip of my tea. This is actually a tea from a local coffee shop. It's a green mango tea. But I struggle in general with sitting in hard things. I've mentioned this before. I'm not one that tends to cry with very many people very often. And that's for a lot of reasons. I'm someone that can feel very overwhelmed by quote unquote negative emotions, even though I don't love calling them negative, but you get what I mean. I'm someone that can feel very overwhelmed by that. And I'm also someone whose brain literally naturally goes towards the positive, I guess. Honestly, I don't even know if I would have said that about myself, but so many people have given me that feedback in my life that I'm like, I guess it's true. I guess that's where my brain goes. And so today, I wanted to not only share the things that have been hard for me, but just share my heart, because I think that, there's this really interesting thing in mommy culture where I feel like there can tend to be two camps, and I've seen people talk about this. There can either be the camp that paints motherhood sometimes as just a breeze and the most joyful, amazing, best thing ever, which is definitely in reality the camp that I'm currently sitting in. And then there's this other group or camp of moms that I notice almost talking. Well, they either like talking about the hardships just for the what's the word, to commiserate, to have the community come together and be like, I feel you, girl, and jump in together and encourage each other. But then there's also these there's also moms on the internet that I notice literally talk badly about their children. And if you're one of those moms, maybe you have a reason I'm not thinking of. I'm not trying to make you feel bad, but I don't resonate with that at all. And so all of that being said, this is a long blabbery intro to say, a lot of you guys have asked me, what is the hard part of motherhood for you? You make it seem so easy, which of course, anything that's edited and presented on the internet is automatically going to seem easier, even if that's not your intent, because once something is edited, you're not living it real time, you're just seeing moments through the camera. And then, like I said, it's edited, right? There's music, there's coloring, and then there's also the goal of the person making the video or the pictures, right? So I enjoy highlighting what I love about motherhood and what I love about my son. A, because I love my son. B, I've mentioned this before, I can't believe motherhood has surprised me like no other, but in a totally different way than I feel what people will say. It's really, I'm a weird combination of a super optimist and also a realist. Meaning, let me back up here. For example, when Dan and I went into pre-marriage counseling, I remember one thing that we talked about with a few people, our counselors and just different people that we admired within our church. And they would very much, paint to us you got to keep in mind, marriage is not all, sunflowers, rainbows, and, butterflies or whatever. And I was over there thinking like, do people think that? Like, because I was never someone that was under that impression. That wasn't the reason I wanted to get married, because I just thought we're going to get married and everything's going to be perfect. I, weirdly enough, especially for someone who got married so young, I was kind of on the other side of the fence where I like knew, quote unquote, what I was getting into. I was actually terrified because I was like, this is not going to be easy. And that same perspective is what I went into motherhood with. Really, like, I remember having conversations with friends being like, no, but like, am I really gonna love my child? Like, when things get really hard, am I really going to love them? And all of my friends would say, you're gonna see, it's natural, it's instinct, which I would say, side note, I mostly agree with, not only for myself, but for most mothers, that it is instinct and that something kicks in hormonally. But also people have different personality types. All my friends told me that not only were they all right, but on the flip side, and this is kind of circling back to a big reason why I highlight so much of the beauty, I don't want to say that I thought motherhood was going to be bad or horrible, because that's not what I'm saying. But what I didn't think about, what I didn't even kind of understand, was how much joy motherhood was going to bring me. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. And I'd heard people say that, but I didn't get it. It's the hardest thing I've ever done, and it's the most fulfilling thing I've ever done. I've never been so proud of something. And I know he's not a something, he's a someone, but this is genuinely how I feel. I feel so proud for the way that my body carried him. I feel proud of the way that I took care of myself. I feel proud of, like, I look at him and I'm like, I did that. And in reality, I mean, I didn't do that, right? I thoroughly believe that life is a creation of God, but you know, it's like getting to be involved in it is just unbelievably breathtaking. The whole thing has just been incredible. So that is, side note, which is not a side note at all, the main reason why I highlight the beauty of motherhood. And I'm hoping that today's video isn't annoying, because when I was genuinely sitting and thinking with myself, I was like, the people that don't like my Sally Sunshine personality might not like this video, because as I was genuinely thinking about the things that I don't like about being a mom, I don't know, they just might annoy some people. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm not even gonna give any more explanation, that's annoying, but I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna hop right in. So the first thing that I don't like about being a mom, the crying. Wow, deep, very exciting. I would say no mom likes the crying. The crying can be really hard. People have asked if Logan cries very often. He really doesn't. He's generally a very happy baby. But even happy babies, like, he doesn't just sit there all zen all day. He cries basically all throughout the day, but at the same time, he doesn't, if that makes sense. Like, nothing is wrong with him. I'm convinced of that. He's healthy, he's happy, but babies do cry sometimes. And I am a believer in, like, they're crying for a reason, but also, like, they can't speak English yet. So I find that oftentimes if he wants or needs something and I didn't get the message through his or whatever, he will resort to crying, you know, or sometimes he cries when he wakes up, or he's crying when he's going to sleep. And it's really hard, not only from a, like, oh my God, I'm going insane perspective, like, could you just stop crying? But it's also really hard because watching someone that you love so much cry is heartbreaking. And babies can't speak English, like I just said, so you don't know what's going on. So you have to use your investigative skills to really think, like, okay, what's happening here? Are they thirsty? Do they need milk? Do they need water? Do they need food? Do they need a diaper change? Are they just thirsty? Like, does their stomach hurt? Are they having growing pains? Do they need a bath? Like, do they need to burp? Like, you just go down this whole list. And I don't like it, because watching my baby suffer, and here's the thing, he may not always be suffering. Like, I'm still at the point, and maybe it's because I'm a first-time mom, maybe it's my personality, I don't know, but where I equate tears with suffering, and I don't like it, and it's really hard on so many levels for my personality to watch my baby cry. And I want more children. I think I'm gonna keep it a secret, potentially, how many kids I think I want now, because we'll just see what happens. But I think about that sometimes. I'm like, how am I gonna do all the tears? Because I don't love it. Does anybody love it? I don't think anybody loves it. So along with the crying, another thing that I don't like, which is kind of the same thing, is the feeling of being out of control. I have a new baby and I already resonate so deeply with that saying of like having a child is like watching your beating heart be outside of your body. It's very, very strange. I look at him all the time and I dream about, you know, his future. I wonder what he'll be like. I wonder who his friends will be, especially right now in the middle of all of this stuff. I wonder like what he's going to be interested in, what he's going to be good at. But then it's really uncomfortable to know I have no control. I can try my best to protect him, to feed him well, to introduce him to God, to the Bible, to morals, to, I can help him with his personality and his health. That sounds weird, but you get what I mean. Just like guiding him as a parent, his education. But there's no guarantee in any of that. And that's a very duh statement. But it's hard, and it's hard for me to think about sometimes that it's like, man, just no control. Control is an illusion. Safety is an illusion, in my opinion. But it's very real and raw when you look at a baby and you're like, I am dreading the first time he gets sick because he hasn't been sick yet. I'm just like, what am I even gonna do when you get sick? Like, it's gonna break my heart. And I think that's just how it's almost like I have to try not to project into my black crystal ball, as my therapist would call it, and try to, like not see the future negatively or think of negative things, because it's easy to look and then be like, and I've talked about this in a Q&A, like someone asked me, how are you not worrying about Logan and what could happen in the future, especially with everything right now? And I really do try not to sit on that very long. And I said in that video that a big thing that I do is I try to really, I don't know how to word this, give him up to God and remember and remind myself, yes, you are not in control, Nikki. Like, that sucks, but you can try all you want to make yourself feel better. But it's true. You're not in control. And so I just try to remind myself of that, and I watch the content I consume. I've mentioned this before, but point being, not being in control, but having this person that you love so much stinks. So another thing that I don't love about being a mom is fighting my own selfishness. And kind of interlinked with that same thought that I don't like about being a mom, is feeling like I'm never going to really be the mom that I want to be, and feeling like I am going to disappoint him. I don't like those feelings. And, part of me feels like, okay, let me back up. The selfishness thing, let's start with that, okay? Because they're both kind of intertwined, but I'm just going to focus on that and what I mean about the fighting selfishness and why I don't like it. It's good for my character, it's good for my soul, but I don't love, for example, when my parents came to town and we were having some really great conversations, and then it's time for Logan's nap, and he needs to go down, and he needs to go down now, and he's making it evident. He's rubbing his eyes, he's starting to get fitful, and I just want to stand there and talk to my parents. I want to finish the conversation with my parents, but I know that I'm being selfish because my baby is losing it in front of me, and what I really need to do is I need to be the grown-up, and I need to pause the conversation and walk away and do the bedtime routine. The bedtime routine is a whole ordeal for us. I think I've shown that in the Day in My Life videos. I mean, I want it that way. I like it that way as of now, but it's an ordeal. We do a full-on, we go out for a walk. I ground him by putting his feet in the grass. I bring him up. I do this whole thing, I change his diaper. I give him milk. I sometimes swaddle him, sometimes don't, depending on how he's acting in his mood. So it's a whole thing. And that is a general thing, right, of being a parent. Like, you're fighting selfishness because this person's needs are above yours. They're depending on you. But I don't love that. Like, don't we all want to be selfish and take care of our own conversations and our own needs and our sleep and our food? And I do believe that taking care of those things is important and isn't even necessarily selfish, right? Because you have to be sane and you have to have good mental health and be physically well rested and all of those things to hopefully be the best parent you can be. But at the same time, at the end of the day, that person's counting on you. And, depending on what kind of life and routine you're trying to build with your child. So like in my case, I knew, okay, I'm being selfish. I have to walk away from this conversation. And I have to do what's best for my baby. And what is best for my baby at this stage in his life is to go down for his naps regularly and routinely, he is happier. I think it keeps him healthier. I just think sleep helps keep everyone healthier. It keeps us happier because ultimately if he's sleeping well, then, like I mentioned, the crying thing, that's usually going to help that. He's not going to cry as much unless, something else is going on, which in some ways it just feels like something is always going on. It's like, oh, now he's teething. Oh, now he's trying solid foods. Oh, like there is kind of always something, and I would just imagine that's going to be like the life of being a parent. But I guess, yeah, I don't like not getting to be selfish, but I love my son. And I believed people when they said that it was the hardest thing they've ever done and the most fulfilling thing they had ever done, but I didn't quite get it. I was like, what does that even fully mean, really? And now that I have a baby, I get it. It's amazing how multiple emotions in life in general can exist at once. I've said this saying before that my therapist had said to me years ago, and it's stuck with me and it will stick with me forever. This isn't necessarily super literal, but it's the gist. And it's that emotions come in sets of 3. And you can have multiple emotions at the same time that are contradictory. For example, another great one, example of this was my wedding day. That is one of the most amazing days of my life. Beautiful, started this amazing journey. Also, it was one of the scariest days in my life. And I think that a lot of us can probably relate to that, right? Like a move. So exciting, something new on the horizon, scary, overwhelming, and stressful because moving kind of stinks. So yeah, the whole emotions come in sets of 3 things. I've really resonated with that ever since she said that, because I notice that now a lot in life in a lot of different areas, how you can genuinely feel multiple, almost conflicting emotions at the same time. And that is definitely what being a parent has been like for me. Speaking of the selfish thing, here's another thing I don't love about being a parent. The lack of sleep. I want to give you the biggest round of applause if you have a baby and you work, because I can't imagine, like sometimes I've just been so tired. I'm like, if I had to leave the house right now, like I don't even know how that would work. And there have been a handful of times since I've had Logan where Dan will take Logan out in the morning so I can get an extra hour or so of sleep. And, that's so helpful. But I don't love not getting great sleep. I don't love waking up every single night. I haven't had a full night's sleep one night since having Logan because of, pumping and before it was breastfeeding. And so, losing that sleep, side note, is another really good reason why as moms we should really aim to fill, our bodies with good nutrition. Because I think when you're a new mom, your physical state just kind of takes a hit from every direction. And I mean I don't love that. I don't love the hit that my body has taken from every way. Going through the pregnancy, being sick for so long, going through the actual act of birth, recovering, feeling my body kind of come back together, having to work really hard to tighten my body back up. But I will say at the same time, here's the thing. Having a baby, like I have a friend that tweeted out something that was like, what was it? It was, if you've actually seen a woman have a baby, then you know that like that's a heroic moment for a woman. And I would say that about, yes, giving birth and really just motherhood in general. Because even though, and this is what I think of, right, when I think of heroism, that it's not easy, that it's hard, and it can be, I don't want to say a battle, because that almost makes it definitely makes it sound like harder and darker than I mean it to be. But like when I think of someone that's heroic, they've done something, they fought for it. It wasn't easy. And that's what being a mom feels like for me so far. I mean, I feel like I got to scream it from the top of the hills. I had literally no idea how beautiful and soul crushing and changing and inspiring and life-giving making a person was going to be. I had no idea. But I think that because I scream that from the rooftops all the time, that's why a lot of people, well, and because motherhood's hard and nobody wants to feel alone, that's why a lot of people were like, well, what? Like, could you share the difficulties of it? And, those are some of them that I just listed in this video. But like I said, man, it's still just the most miraculous insane thing I've ever experienced. And to those of you that know this or don't know this, I am a pro-life person in the traditional sense of the word. And I always have been. But having a baby, oof, it takes it next level, because my brain can't understand how, I mean, it can, but you know what I mean? How did I have a pink line on a test? And now I have a soul. I have a person with a personality that looks at me like he's obsessed with me, like he just loves me so much. And he's so beautiful, and his eyes, I just stare at them and I'm like, what is going on in your brain? It's the craziest thing. So as hard as being a mom can be, anything, and I truly believe this, anything that is deeply, profoundly fulfilling takes work and is going to have parts that are not, quote unquote, fun. But it also depends on what your definition of fun is, or happiness, or those things. Because if you see fun in a bigger holistic way, like if it's fun to feel really fulfilled to you, it's fun for the same reason, except a way deeper reason, why it's fun to get in shape. Like, it's not always fun to go to the gym, and it's hard, and sometimes it hurts and it burns, and like you ache and you're hobbling, but it's fun to get in better shape and like easily squat down and, you know, pick your stuff up. Or like the other day, I bent down to get ice out of my freezer, and I am so dumb. I literally was like, did the ice machine get moved up? Do we have something stacked under there? And then I was like, why was that my first go-to thought? Of course it wasn't. I'm getting stronger. And guess what? That is fun, to be getting stronger. But you know what hasn't necessarily been fun, if you want to use the light, fleeting word of fun? Showing up every single day to do my full workout 6 days a week. And I've been doing it now for months. And it's not always fun. And often, I mean, there have been times where I'm literally in bed and I'm just like, I don't want to get up. And I'm like, no, get up, do it. I know you don't want to do it, but you will be happy you did it. I guess my point is, anything worthwhile, I mean, that's a corny but true saying, is going to be coming with its own set of difficulties. You know, building a house is hard, but having a house is awesome. Like, there's just the list, the comparisons go on and on. So that is it. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope that if you're out there and you are having a hard time, I was gonna say mama, I always wanna call everyone mama now. So mama, if you're having a hard time out there, I just want to encourage you, keep swimming. It doesn't always feel great or easy or fun, but just like how there are seasons in nature, there are seasons in life. You will not always be a new mom. You will not always be a first-time mom. Your baby, I would imagine, oh my God, my dogs are going insane. Your baby, I would imagine, is not always going to be crying. Your baby is not always going to be breastfeeding or drinking milk or whatever. And so if you're having a hard time, give yourself some grace, breathe, do some good things for your body. Try to get in some nutrition. I think we're quick to forget that nutrition is super important. Get in some water, get outside, put your feet in the dirt, take your shoes off, do the things that you can do to take care of yourself, and just ride out this season. Because that's the other thing is, like, you know, emotions, they come and go, they're fleeting. But also, if you are kind of fresh postpartum like me, I guess I'm not fresh, I'm almost 8 months now, but your hormones can go all over the map for a while. I've heard for like up to a year, a lot of women are still dealing with the kind of residual effects of like postpartum hormones going all over the map. So try to be easy on yourself and remind yourself, this is a season, just keep swimming and, you know, do the things you got to do. You know, I think sometimes there is a place to phone it in, just like the gym example that I gave. I didn't feel like doing all those workouts, but I did it anyway. And I didn't need to feel like doing it to do it. Oftentimes, your emotions will catch up to your actions. And sometimes it takes a while, and sometimes they don't. You know, I realize that people deal with actual medical, you know, depression, and different babies come with different problems, different issues, but I just mostly want to hit the point home over and over to keep swimming and take it one day at a time. I remember prior to having a baby, I always looked at moms that had had babies or were pregnant or, you know, new moms or whatever, and I was always like, dude, you're a mom. Like, that's difficult. Like, I had so much grace in my heart for moms, but then it's so interesting how as humans sometimes when we step into a role, suddenly we don't give ourselves that same grace. And so I'm not preaching that there's kind of this culture of just like letting everything slide, like in general in life, right? Like, eat whatever you want, do whatever you want, go wherever you want, just have grace with yourself. And I think if you've been watching my channel long enough, you know that I'm not saying that. I'm really speaking to people who are like me, who are kind of like, how do I word? I don't even know how to word this without sounding weird. Like they're go-getters. They're always like trying to improve, trying to handle all their tasks, but then beating themselves up. Don't do that. So I want to encourage you. You are most likely doing better than you think. If you're not, that's going to be something to circle back and be honest with yourself on what type of mom you'd like to be. But like I mentioned earlier, I think that's part of the hardship of parenting. I don't think I'm ever going to be the mom that I really want to be. That doesn't mean that I don't try. I'm aiming to be that mom. I want to be that mom. But because I believe anyways that I am a sinner, I'm a person prone to selfishness, and because expectations for some reason never align with reality, like the vacation that you plan on and you get there and you're like, wow, this didn't pan out exactly how I thought it would. So there's kind of this feeling of like, don't have these expectations be so high on yourself. I talked about this a lot with birthing, with birth plans. It's like I had a goal. I wanted to do it at home. I wanted to do it naturally. And I really wanted that. And I was doing all of the steps to go that direction. But I also had to have my hand open to, I'm not God. I don't know what God has planned for me. It's kind of different than what I was just saying about being like a sinner and being selfish. But they're kind of the same in the sense that like, I don't know, not all things that don't pan out how you want it to pan out has to do with your selfishness or your sin as a human. Sometimes it's just circumstances in life. And so, I'm just going to repeat it again. Be kind to yourself. Be a friend to yourself. How you talk to yourself matters. What you say about yourself to yourself matters. And if you're saying negative things or you're asking yourself negative questions like, why am I such a bad mom? That's an example. Our brains are wired to answer that question. If you ask yourself why you're such a bad mom, your brain is probably going to go like a computer and pull all the reasons to give you why you're a bad mom. But if you ask yourself, why am I such a good mom? Which I realize this sounds a little like woo woo wee wah, but just roll with me. Your brain will look for reasons to answer that. And my point in saying that is that our brains are powerful. Our brains want to answer the questions that we ask ourselves. And I want you to just be aware of how you're talking to yourself. And I'm talking to myself too when I'm talking to you guys. I think it's important that we're all aware of what we say to ourselves. I'm not someone, and I've gotten comments like this before. I guess just to clarify, I'm actually not of the belief in Christianity that we are all meant to be healed, or that if we say that we're hurting or we're aching, that means that we can't be healed. I actually have a very different theological view when it comes to healing and all of that. Of course, I can't say of course, you wouldn't know that. I totally believe that God can and does heal, but I have just a different set of beliefs around all of that theologically, like I mentioned. That being said, I 100% believe that the words that we say, like I said, to ourselves, about ourselves, are very important in our mood, in the way that we interact with other people, our children, all of that. So I'm going to wrap this up, but I'm sending you a big hug through the camera, an e-hug, or through the phone, the audio. I'm sending you an e-hug through this audio. Is that weird? So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I hope there was a point. Literally every time I sit down and talk, I'm always like, was there any point? Is anyone gonna like this video? Like, it's a joke between us now with Dan. We're like, I'll come downstairs from filming and I'm like, I don't know, man, if there was any point to that video. And he's always like, dude, like every time. So if you did like this, please consider giving it a thumbs up. If you have thoughts that you would like to add to the mix down below, or requests or questions, please let me know. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already and you would like to see me in your inbox more frequently. And check the info box for today's semi-secret, not actually secret giveaway. And I will hopefully see you back here soon with another new video. All right, bye guys.